Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Greed. Webster's defines it as a selfish and excessive desire for more of something, such as money, than is really needed. Now, I can tell you one thing. In my 36 years of meeting with over 15,000 savers, I've learned that it's very easy for savers to fall victim to seeking more than what is really needed. Yet, isn't that what life is really all about? Working hard, saving hard, so that you can spend the fruits of your labor on things that go beyond what is needed. Because in reality, we're all a tad greedy. Think about it. All you and I need to survive is a little roof over our heads, a pillow to lay our heads down on at night, and a small daily rationing of food and water. That's really all we need. Anything beyond that falls into wants. But since we're human, and seeing as though our basic needs can get a little boring, we tend to want more and more above what is needed, which is no problem unless we get greedy. You see, this innate desire for satisfying your wants can create more and more worry, or worse yet, something we call the greedy saver syndrome. Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement, and I am the author of the Worry-Free Retirement book, the book Live Well, Die Broke, and one of my favorite little books, Don't Follow the Herd, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker, and I'm going to show you how to avoid something at Tony Walker Financial we refer to as the greedy saver syndrome. A syndrome that affects all savers in one way or the other. But before we get into the day's show, let me introduce America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. By the way, Aaron balked at this idea, but here's goes. I'm going to show something that I've never showed in the first segment of our show, and that's a Tony in the trenches, because it actually sets the show up very nicely. It's a question that came in from Carlos in Louisville, who says, Tony, I'm 55 and thinking of retiring around 60, and right now I'm losing my expletive in the stock market. Most of my money is in 100% growth mutual funds up until the coronavirus hit. So, Carlos goes on to say, I tried to get out of the stock market and time myself out of the stock market. So right now, I missed the timing of the market, is basically what he's saying. And at this stage, he wants to know how much money should he, at this stage of the game, have in the stock market? Well, this is a great question, and one I'm going to answer when I return. So good stuff coming your way. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back.
I keep hearing conflicting information about annuities. Some advisors say they're good, and some say to steer clear of them altogether. So are annuities good or bad, or how do I find out the truth?
Well, first of all, I have written a little booklet that people can download at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. It's called the Annuity Decision Guide for Savers. So I've used my 35 years in this business to write a booklet that at least anybody can understand what they are first. Most people really don't know what they are. And in fact, a lot of people on Wall Street who tend to not like annuities because they don't sell them, they don't really understand them. So what I would say is annuities are the only guaranteed contract out there issued by insurance companies that can protect your principal, plus make sure you don't outlive your money. So the first thing somebody needs to ask themselves is not whether annuity is good or bad. They need to ask themselves, is there anything I have in my 401k that can guarantee me that I won't run out of money? And more than likely the answer is no. Then if that person says, you know what, I want something that will make sure that I don't run out of money, well, guess what? They're going to have to look at an annuity. The other funny thing about annuities and why people don't like them, pensions. You've probably heard of pensions. Pensions are annuities. So I'll have people come in sometimes and they still have a pension from their old employer, and you look at it closely and it says your annuity payment is X. So it's interesting, annuities per se, annuities have been around longer than most investments. They've stood the test of time, and I think the main reason people don't like them is Wall Street has infiltrated so much into the 401k, something that wasn't around when my granddad was even alive, And they've taken over the narrative to make people believe that Wall Street, stocks, bonds, mutual funds are the only way to go. And that's just not accurate.
So annuities are pensions?
It's a good way to put it. I call the annuities mailbox money. So what was the origin of this mailbox money I'm always talking about? So if you go back to my granddad, he worked for Bell South. He started there in 1932, retired in 1978. Ironically, Tina, that was the same year that the 401k was enacted into law. See, the 401k hadn't been around that long. Prior to the 401k, everybody, like Granddad, enjoyed pensions. You've heard of pensions, right? You worked for your employer. If you kept your nose clean, stayed with them, and retired, the employer would in turn pay you a pension for the rest of your life. My granddad got a pension. Here's a shot of, here's a statement of his pension. You want to take a look at that? So look at this, $700 and some odd a month, but that's what he got for the rest of his life. Now you might say, well, that's not a lot of money, Tony, but it was guaranteed. And my granddad had enough sense not to spend more money than he had coming in. So he was fine for the rest of his life. So a pension is an annuity. So what happened was when the 401ks came onto the scene, Wall Street controlled the narrative. Employers got away from pensions. People kind of forgot what a pension is. Most young people don't even know what a pension is. So what we say is, well, yeah, pensions have gone the way of the dinosaurs, but we do have private annuities that can emulate what my granddad enjoyed all of his life, which is mailbox money. So yes, I love annuities because you're not going to run out of money with an annuity. Whether you're a long-time viewer of the Worry-Free Retirement or just catching it for the first time, know this, you can watch past episodes and educational clips by visiting our YouTube channel. Just log on to youtube.com and search Tony Walker Financial. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And as I think about Carlos's question from our previous segment, there really are two types of savers. The first type of saver is my wife, Susan. There she is with our two little grandkids. Susan's the type of person that absolutely, positively will not take any risk with her money. She is a true saver, defined as someone who is much more concerned about the return of her money than on it. But then we have people like Carlos, and that's okay, but these are the folks that we have to be careful with because we call this the greedy saver syndrome. Again, folks, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of risk, but we have to be very, very careful. For instance, here we are for the first time in our nation's history, a flu virus created a panic in our country, causing our government to make a hasty decision to literally shut down our economy. So what was the result? Well, between 2020 of February and March of 2020, that's just a period of 33 days, the stock market fell 36.4%. That means if you had $100,000 in your 401k, basically in February, in just 33 days, it plummeted down to $64,000. And worse yet, if you tried to time the market and try to sell out, you sold out low, of course, you'd have missed the uptick that we recently are seeing as we record this show on July 14th, 2020. In other words, you would have mistimed the market. But since we're human and we can slip into what I call the greedy saver syndrome, we keep risking our money hoping for more and more rather than positioning our money into what we call guaranteed investments. Now, why is this? Because really there's two reasons. Number one, we don't want to miss out on the higher returns, especially our friends might be making. And secondly, because we think we can really time the stock market. So what is timing the stock market? It's this notion that one can know with certainty when to sell stocks and when to buy them. And it's not just Carlos in Louisville that has trouble timing the market. Take a look at the recent woes of the stock market from some of our experts out here who may have been better off just playing golf and investing in an index. Look at this. After 10 years, 85% of the large cap funds underperformed the S&P 500, and after 15 years, nearly 90% of them were trailing the index. This is something we suggest savers do, is to consider index funds. We use ETFs for this. Now, we'll occasionally buy some individual stocks, but folks, trying to time the market, I mean, it's like trying to have a crystal ball to predict the future. Actually, I do have a crystal ball, but it doesn't really help, believe me. So this is why I suggest savers consider a plan of action that includes the possibility of a little bit of risk if they wish to take it, but is mainly built on a foundation of guarantees. We're not going to try to speculate and time the market. That's not what we do at Tony Walker Financial. But since most of you don't have a game plan from a trained retirement specialist, what you decide to do, feeling like you're hopeless and don't know what to do, You leave the world of safety and security and guarantees and you begin tying up all of your 401k and your money in the stock market. Well, there is a better way to invest your money, and it's called our split IRA concept. And with this process, you get to choose how much risk you want to take and how much guarantees you want to take. There's no more fear of running out of money, no more trying to time the market, and of course, no more sleepless nights. So how does the split IRA concept allow you to have your cake and eat it too? Well, stay tuned. Let me get the whiteboard out. I'll be right back. This is some good stuff coming up. I'm going to answer Carlos's original question of how do you determine how much money, if you're retired or nearing retirement, to have in the stock market. I'll be right back. You stay tuned.
And now it's time for the adventures of Stella, Scout, and Ivy. You've been watching the adventures of Stella, Scout, and Ivy.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, looking at an old book I wrote, Don't Follow the Herd, and how it pertains to this concept of the greedy saver syndrome. How does this happen? Well, because sometimes people, I believe, do follow the herd. They don't realize that if they just stay the course, they just stay in their lane, everything's going to be fine, but we tend to want to watch everybody else and what they're doing. So what I've done, I've taken an excerpt from the book. Let's take a look at this. Aaron's manning the helm over there. And we're just imagining that we've got somebody that decides to put all their money with Wall Street and somebody that decides to work with Tony Walker Financial on our split IRA concept built for savers. Let's take a look at the first year. These are all hypotheticals, by the way, folks. And let's imagine Wall Street earns 20%. Pretty good rate of return. Everybody's thumbs up. We come over here to our split IRA, a very conservative approach. Let's say we make 4.83%. Now, at first glance, you're not going to be real happy with this because your friend over at the water cooler got 20%. Maybe we go to the second year. Let's see what happens. Hey, look out. Got another great year. Wall Street, 20%. The split IRA, maybe you make 4.83. Now you're really saying, okay, Tony, what are we doing here? Well, let's go to the third year. What we just saw with this recent coronavirus shutdown, more than 20% obviously, but let's just stay with our example in the book. You lose 20%. And again, let's imagine we make 4.83%. Now, before we advance the slide here, Aaron, let's think about this. If you just looked at this on the surface, if you didn't do some quick math, you'd think, but I'm so far ahead over here, Tony, because I got 20% those 2 years, and you're over here plodding along at 4.83%. Roll tape, Aaron. What do we see here? What's the average rate of return? Wall Street loves to talk about average rates of return. And what would our average rate of return be? 4.83%. Well, we got a problem here. Average return is not actual return. Let's see what the actual return would have been, and what we find is they're dead even. So in this example, folks, that one bad loss that you took threw you right back in, and as we've seen in the past, there's been losses of more than 1 year, higher than this we just went through, and over a 30% loss. And if you're retired or retiring soon like our friend Carlos, this is a recipe for worry. So what I'm going to do, let's go over to the whiteboard, and we're going to have some fun with Carlos here, and I'm going to show you in action what happens with the greedy saver syndrome that Carlos was going through versus if we had put his 401k into our split IRA concept, because Carlos wants to know, okay, Tony, how much money at this stage of the game, if I'm a saver and I'm getting close to retirement, should I really have in the stock market? Now, by the way, what I'm going to share with you here is just an example. There's no one size fits all. This is where you need to sit down with someone like us, a trained retirement specialist, find out what your goals are, find out what your needs are, find out what your wants are, and then develop the game plan, and then you invest in products. Remember, don't put those products before the game plan. You'll regret that, believe me. So in this case, Carlos, remember, has 100% of his $500,000 401k in the stock market. Remember this, all right? And then we see the coronavirus hit. We'll just call it 30% so I can do the math. He loses 30%. So now Carlos is left with about $350,000. Lost 30% of $500,000. Folks, that is not worry-free. That is a huge problem. So now we come over to the split IRA concept. Let's say we did not have all of Carlos's money in the stock market, but we split it. We decided to put 30% into what we call our moderate growth portfolio, and then we put 70% into a fixed annuity so that we could get our beloved mailbox money. So over here we do have some risk. I'll break that down. And over here we have no risk and guaranteed lifetime income. It was funny, I met with somebody the other day and they said, yeah, we're talking to an advisor now. And they said, if everything works out as planned, we'll have enough money through age 90. And I said, what happens after age 90? And they said, well, I guess we'll run out of money. And I said, well, that's no plan at all. Folks, your plan must consist of mailbox money because we don't know how long you're going to live. So the mailbox money gives us the protection of knowing we won't run out of money. So let's break this down. So 0% in the stock market here, 30% of 500 is $150,000. But now in our moderate growth portfolio, okay, we only have 60% in the stock market. So you take that, so that leaves us $90,000 exposed to the stock market. You with me? 500,000, 70% or $350,000 in this example is not exposed to the market. We take the 150 in our split IRA, but only 60% of that is in the stock market. And then we suffer a loss of 30% on the 90. This is really important to follow, folks. This is why we say we specialize in sleep insurance. You can go to bed at night, and if this market crashes on us, your 401k doesn't crash with it. So you take 30% of 90. So again, nobody likes losing money. Susan would not be happy with this. But in this example, let's compare these, Aaron. In this example, Carlos is down $150,000. In our example, with our split IRA concept, with our moderate growth portfolio, he's only down $30,000. So my question to you, fellow saver, is which situation would you rather be in? Something that gives you more control and access to your money, or this situation? And therein lies the real problem, especially once you get into retirement. Think about this. When you get into retirement, you need income. The purpose of this money, as covered in the book Live Well, Die Broke, is to spend and enjoy it while you still can. If you wait too long or you can't get access to it, what is the whole point of saving all this money? You think Carlos is going to be anxious to yank money out of this if he were retired? This would be a disaster to start pulling out money now with all these losses. Over here, we can still feel comfortable pulling money out, and because we haven't had so many losses, it's not near as severe. So folks, if you'd like to sit down at no cost or obligation, maybe you've recently received an inheritance, yep, we can do the split concept. Maybe you've got a 401k, or you're getting ready to retire or thinking of retiring. Unfortunately, I've got people that are being asked to leave work. They're not being asked to come back, folks. So this is the first time in their life they've really had to take this notion of retiring and investing their money with a fiduciary very seriously. So at no cost or obligation, I'll be happy to go over this situation with you. It's real easy to do. All you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now once there, you're going to click on the Let's Get Started button, and we have two things you can do. You can either go on and schedule an appointment to meet with myself or one of our fellow fiduciaries at no cost or obligation. We can meet you at our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Or we've got a feature on the website where you can set up a brief 10-minute phone call by appointment, and then we can follow up with you to see what's interesting you, how we might be able to help, and see if we need to meet in person to further discuss your situation. So take advantage of that now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and also you can call us at 877-499-9255. Well, does the Bible have anything to say about speculating with your future and the idea of God being in the guarantee business? It sure does, but I got to get me a cup of coffee for this one. I'll be right back. Well, with us in the studio is our own Lisa Allerkamp, all the way from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Lisa, first of all, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And as we said, we just wanted you to share with the audience a little bit about, first of all, your background. You came out of the financial world, and then since that time, your work at Tony Walker Financial.
Sure. Of course, my background is in financial management, and previously I was employed in the banking industry for several years, held various positions in the bank, did a little bit of accounting before I came to you into the retirement planning services.
And I think I told you this, we were actually looking for another staff member to fill this position, and you didn't have quite the qualifications for this one. We needed somebody that had a little bit of investment experience, but I told Heather, I remember us saying, we've got to hire that young lady. I was so impressed with your background, and you've worked out to be a wonderful employee. And with that accounting background, it's helped because now you're doing a lot of our income plans. Explain to people when you first started with Tony Walker Financial, maybe what a retirement planning specialist you thought to be and what we do in terms of the extensive work.
Right. Well, actually, I didn't really know all that went into retirement planning. It's been very eye-opening, but very rewarding to learn the process. Of course, with all the income plans, all the analysis that goes into each one, and they're specific to each individual client. So there's a lot of work that goes into each plan.
And then also, give us your designation in terms of your certification in Social Security. That's been very helpful to our clients.
The actual title is Certificate Holder of National Social Security Advisors Association, which just means a little extra training that allows me to assist clients with any of their Social Security issues.
And so what would be a good thing to do, Lisa, if somebody has Social Security questions? There's a lot of things that come up about, when to file for Social Security. Do I wait? Do I start? What about if I'm divorced and have a former spouse? How do I work in terms of filing for that? What would be your suggestion to them, and what is the process we go through with those particular clients?
Sure. All kinds of questions come up with Social Security. It's a complex thing, so I'd welcome anybody to contact me at the office or email me at lisa@tonywalkerfinancial.com. I'll either know the answer, but if I don't know the answer, I do have resources that I'll be glad to find out.
Well, Lisa, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come be with us. You've become an invaluable employee, and we very much appreciate you and the work you do for our clients.
I'm glad to be here, Tony. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So I'm a very big fan of 100% money back guarantee, both as a consumer as a business owner. And the main value of a 100% money back guarantee is that, one, it gives the consumer a lot of confidence and trust that they're going to buy that product. And so if among lots of different options and limited time, if I know as a consumer there's a 100% money back guarantee, there's a much higher likelihood that I'm going to buy that product.
Don't you just love money back guarantees? You know how it goes. You purchase a product, and the person or vendor who sells it to you basically says, for any reason, if you don't like the product, if it breaks, or if it doesn't perform as advertised, just bring it back and we'll give you all your money back guaranteed. Funny story about taking stuff back. My dad was notorious for that. Years ago, though, back in the 60s and 70s, I don't know if you recall that era, but it was hard to take stuff back. A lot of stores wouldn't take it back and just give you your money back. Well, we had purchased a TV and took it home, and Dad didn't like it. It was at a Rose's department store. So here we go. We take it back to the Rose's department store counter. My dad walks in, kind of thumps it on the countertop, and the lady looks up and says, "Can I help you?" And he goes, "Yeah, we're going to get this TV back. I'd like my money back." And she said, "Well, first of all, I got to see a receipt." Well, Dad had lost that. And she said, "Well, sir, what's wrong with it?" And Dad, he was a quick thinker on this kind of stuff, said, "Well, his mother duplicated the gift." And I'm back there laughing. I don't even know what that even means. So the lady gave him his money back. But we talk about money back guarantees. Don't you wish the stock market came with a money back guarantee? Well, unfortunately, it and most other investments do not. Now, sure, there are investments we offer that are guaranteed, such as bank products, government bonds, fixed annuities, just to name a few, that are guaranteed. But you know what? In the real world, as much as I hate to admit this, even these products are really, truly not guaranteed. Something could happen to them in the future, meaning in this world, folks, there really is nothing that's absolutely guaranteed. But you know what? Not so with God. When He promises you something, He backs it up with 100% guarantee. I think God's in the business of guarantees. When He says something, He's going to do it. And unlike mankind, He's not in the business of speculation and running through all these what-if scenarios. Funny, of all the possessions we know the world cannot guarantee, there's actually one possession we have that is guaranteed. Check it out in 2 Corinthians 5:5. And it says this, "Now the one who has fashioned us for this very purpose is God, who has given us the Spirit," I love this word, "as a deposit guaranteeing what is to come." You see, friend, when you turn your life over to God and accept His free gift of grace and mercy, His Spirit takes over, providing us the guarantee that God will not forsake us no matter what this world dishes out. Look at what Jesus says about this in John 16:7. He says, "But I tell you the truth. It is to your advantage that I go away, for if I do not go away, the Helper," notice the Helper is capitalized there, "shall not come to you, but if I go, I will send him to you." So what does His Spirit provide us? Well, then we got to go back to 2 Corinthians 5:6. It says, "Therefore, we are always," oh, look at this word, "confident, and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord." Do you see it? Look at it closely. Guarantees provided by God today will produce confidence in our tomorrows. Moral to the story, folks, when you and I are more confident in our future, we're gonna worry less about it. Well, how about you? Are you tired of feeling like you're following the herd? Maybe you feel like you're drinking downstream from the rest of the world and wondering why the water tastes so funny. Do you feel like you've fallen victim to the greedy saver syndrome, and maybe you're just ready to get your stuff organized and get on the road to a worry-free retirement? Well, let me extend a free offer to talk about your specific situation, and we can do this either by phone or in person. And best of all, it's real easy to do. We can either meet in our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Now, how do you arrange such a meeting? Well, all you do is you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, you click on the Let's Get Started button. Now, we have two options. We can either contact you by phone, you can set up an appointment through our offices, or we have a new version where you can set up a 10-minute phone call to see exactly what we can help you with and if a further appointment is warranted. So again, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-9255. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've enjoyed being with you. You remember, though, between now and next week on the Worry-Free Retirement, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.